Yo, what's going on, Winning Shot family? We are back with another episode of The Winning Shot. As you guys know, we have been doing content on the NBA for the past couple of weeks. We've had some exciting games and some interesting matchups. This playoffs has definitely gone differently than what I expected. I'm pretty sure that, Hundo, for you, there are some good moments in this series. This playoffs. But we're going to go series by series. Once again, I'm your boy Collin with my friend Hundo. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. We left off. The Pacers were up on the Cavaliers 2-1, I believe, the last time we did the podcast. And from then, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't win another game. And so, when we look at this series, there's a lot of storylines about, Cleveland being the number one seed and getting exited like that in the second round. Everybody was expecting a Boston-Cleveland series, and now it's kind of shaping up where the Pacers might be playing the Knicks. And that looks kind of different than what we expected before. But talk to me about this series as a whole. Like, what were your thoughts watching these games? And is there anything concerning with the Pacers going forward?
I think coming into this series, we kind of talked about how the Pacers are probably like for real, like they're not pretenders. Like they got a legit shot, like they're gonna play hard. They got multiple players that's gonna go out and hoop. And they showed that this series, like, boys played hard. Halliburton playing like he got a chip on his shoulder, doggone, probably bigger than a chip. he got like a rock on his shoulder or something. But man, he's been playing at a high level. Siakam, Nembhard, Neesmith, all them boys, man, just showing up the hoop, man. Yeah, them boys are for real. Like we talked about last week, them boys are for real, man.
Yeah, man. I definitely did not pick the Pacers to go this far. But like you said, I feel like Tyrese Halliburton has been on a burn, ever since the playoffs started. I don't know when that article came out about the overrated players, but I feel like he took that personally. It seems like, he's kind of proven himself not only to the natural layman like, me and you, but just the NBA community. I feel like he's getting a lot more respect even amongst his peers. But I think with Rick Carlisle's style of play, it affected Cleveland mainly because they were hurt. They were playing, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, Ty Jerome, and they were just getting exploited because those guys can't make plays on the offensive end. And, they were already questionable defensively. These guys are the fourth, fifth, and sixth options, and you're asking them to be the second and third options, and I don't think that was feasible. So I guess let's start from Cleveland's perspective. They were the number one seed. Obviously, they did not meet the expectations. Yeah, I just saw that Donovan Mitchell said, he let the city down. And, when we saw at the end what they looked like without Darius and without Evan, do you bring this roster back? Do you blow it up? What do you do if you're the GM of the Cavs?
Yeah, I think they're in an interesting spot. I think Mitchell has 2 more years and a player option still left on his contract. Of course, this is not how they expected to go out. Like I said last week, like when players get hurt, I always give the benefit of doubt of let's run it back next year. Like we saw what they looked like healthy throughout the regular season. It got them first place in the East. So a healthy roster looks totally different for the Cavaliers. I do think maybe, like we talked about with a couple other teams, maybe you just add a few different bench pieces, right? Mm-hmm. Their starters are pretty much intact. Like I don't think they're blowing up Mobley. Maybe they possibly move Garland or Jared Allen, possibly. But I think Spider's pretty much there to stay. Mobley's going to be there. I think they like the double big lineup with Allen and Mobley. But I think maybe Garland. Do you try to move Garland possibly? But other than that, like similar to the Knicks, like I think their starters are intact. I don't think they're gonna necessarily blow it up and make any drastic changes. But I could see possibly, a Darius Garland possibly getting moved, or a Jared Allen if they're not firm believers in the double big lineup. But it pretty much worked for them throughout the regular season, the double big lineup. So we'll see.
Yeah. This is one of the few moments I'd probably say run it back. Not because, just the injuries on their team, but I think when you look around the East, kind of like we were talking about with the Celtics series, we don't know what the East is going to look like next year. You got Dame that's going to be dealing with the Achilles injury. That'll probably take a year. I think, the playoffs are going to look the same. I think the Magic probably will move up, because they were injured most of the regular season. But I think if you're Cleveland Cavaliers, you're like, okay, we might not have to worry about Boston. The Knicks, are still going to be a formidable team, but I still think that they can get the number 1 seed next year, right? If you bring this roster back. So the only problem I have though is, Kenny, because I feel like Kenny is great at defying the expectations, right? We saw him do it with Brooklyn before he left, got fired, and went to the Golden State's roster. But like, he can take minimal talent and maximize it. But I'm just curious to know if he is the type of coach that can take you to the next level, right? Because we've gotten past the defined expectations. Nobody expected the Cavs to be the number 1 seed in the East. But after a while, it's going to be like, okay, yeah, we got this accomplishment, but can we get to the next accomplishment of getting to the finals? I don't believe he's ever done that as a head coach.
Yeah, and like I said though, like what is it? Is it the role players? Is it the star players not living up to the star potential? Like what do you think it could be in the case for the Cavaliers?
The thing is, I don't know, man. I think, like you said, we can't really make an honest evaluation without everybody being healthy, right? Because they look good in the regular season, but a lot of their wins came from just blowouts, and like we weren't able to accurately assess what it looks like for them to have a healthy bench. You have DeAndre Hunter was a good addition because he provides defense. And so I would be curious to know what that team looks like. And even when they tried to bring Darius Garland back, it was clear that he was hurt. I think he had more fouls than points in a couple of games. And it's like, all right, how do we assess Garland? Because we have seen Darius Garland and Donovan together, but it's like he's the only piece that I would be willing to move if I want to change anything. Other than that, I just want to keep everybody back and see what we look like healthy.
Yeah, and you made a good point too about the Eastern Conference. Like Dame's going to be out, well, if not the whole season, about 75% of the season. We don't know if Giannis is going to get moved, so let's just take the Bucks out the picture. 76ers, don't know what that's going to look like. Like you said, the Magic, if healthy, I mean, they're going to be up there and competing, but like maybe they're a 4 seed at best. Like I don't see them getting above 4.
Right.
The Pacers are going to be back, of course. So maybe you have to worry about them again. But I mean, sure, you look at like you said, you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference. A lot of those teams are not that good.
Bro.
Like unless Miami makes a drastic move in free agency, like maybe they could be better. But like other than that, like I'm not fearing too many other teams in the Eastern Conference for real.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, but who knows what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is Boston. They're going to have to do something because they're so high above the luxury tax, and that team is. We'll talk about it, in a couple minutes, but that team's getting really old, and it's like, okay, our pieces are still young and in their prime, and even like you were saying with Miami, any team in the East that makes a drastic move, I can confidently say that Cleveland's roster will still be deeper than that team because you're going to have to make a big move and you're going to have to give up a lot of pieces. So say if you're Miami and you get Giannis, yes, you have Giannis, but do you keep Harrell? Do you trade him? And then even after that, you're dealing with Kel Ware, who's an emerging piece, but that bench is kind of like shaky, where I can say probably like 4 or 5 deep on that roster, I can trust to be a good starter to give me 15 or 16. So I don't think a lot of rosters in the East can say that.
Yeah, and then of course you got Detroit right there too.
Yeah,
and we talked about them a little bit last week about what they possibly could do, in the off season. But we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not sold on a lot of these teams, bro. A lot of these teams are trash, bro. Washington, Charlotte, Brooklyn, Toronto, trash. Chicago, trash. They made the play in, but trash. Atlanta, is Trae Young gonna be there? If not, trash.
Trash. Yeah, I agree with you, bro. So I would run it back. There's nobody that I fear in the East now. right?
Yeah.
I think every team can be beaten in the East now, right? All right, okay, so let's move over to the Pacers, right? So Pacers have been to their second straight Eastern Conference Finals, and we see that we texted about this before, that I think in terms of depth, they have a lot of great pieces on their team. Even Benedict Mathurin has been lighting it up in the postseason. So, what does it take for the Pacers right now in the third round? What does it take for them to win an NBA Finals?
I don't think it's happening this year.
Yeah,
Them winning a NBA Finals, I don't think that's gonna happen. Um, like we texted about, bruh. You said they have a lot of like B minus type players on their team. Like that's not winning no championship. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Like, yeah, you can have the depth. Yeah, you can have the role players, but like you need another star. Like they
yeah.
have Siakam, they got Halliburton. Miles Turner's been good, but like, could we get better? Like I don't know, bro. Like I don't think this roster is going to win a championship, but like they're good enough to like make it to the championship, possibly. Like I
Yeah.
think they could definitely make it to the championship, but like we talked about with several other teams, bro. It's like you're going to have to get rid of a lot of those role players to go either land another star or I mean, I guess that's the only option. Go get another star, bro. Like trade these role players and go get another star. Who that
What?
is, I don't know.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask. In a hypothetical world, who fits the best with Tyrese?
Like maybe I don't know. I guess a wing. I mean, you got Siakam and you got Turner down low. That's the 4 and the 5 right there. I guess go get a shooting guard or a small forward that can that can light it up. I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know, bro. But also, like, are they willing to give up all of their role players, like their young role players, or do you just hope that they develop into a star and take a next step going into next season?
yeah. I think that's the biggest thing because Indiana is kind of like the Colts, like it kind of bootstrap in terms of location. Nobody wants to go to Indiana, so you kind of have to build through your picks and your pieces you currently have. And I was thinking while I was asking the question, like, do you even entertain the idea of going after Katie?
But see, I feel like I guess it depends on what they're asking for. Like
Yeah,
if you're able to get KD without giving up, a Siakam or Miles Turner, yes. But like if one of them are involved in the trade and you have to give up one or two of those younger pieces, nah, I'm not doing that, bro. I'm not doing that.
so you wouldn't do Siakam? You wouldn't do Siakam and Maturin for Katie?
I feel like it's gonna have to be more than that though. They're gonna get another one of them young players, bro.
So Siakam, Maturin, and Nembhard.
I'm not doing that, bro. I don't know, bro. I like the way Siakam has been playing with the Pacers, bro. Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say he's untouchable, but like for this roster, bro, like I would like to keep Siakam on this roster, bro.
yeah, I feel that, and I don't I don't necessarily know if KD's game fits the Pacers, just from the standpoint of I know it's KD, but what Rick Carlisle is doing in Indiana, man, them boys are like it basically looks like a college offense. I mean, going up and down and having to guard. I don't know if KD wants to do that. I feel like he wants to be in a more pro system where kind of I won't say like more lackadaisical defense, but I feel like even with the defense with Indiana, it seems like a pack line Virginia defense, and I'm like, all right, well, I don't feel like KD wants to put that much effort on the defensive end, and I think he's cool with the running up and down, but I just don't see him and Carlisle meshing, honestly.
What do you think about like I'm trying to think of like bigs. What about like Joel Embiid? If he's able to stay healthy, of course. What about Embiid instead of like a Miles Turner?
I think it comes down to health. That's what I was gonna say. It was like, yeah, Embiid, and I think on any roster would be, a move worth considering. The problem is I can trust Miles Turner to be on the court, and I think that Miles Turner gives a little bit more athletically than what I've seen from Embiid. Because the thing is, we got to see not just that he's coming back from injury, but how he looks coming back from injury at this age. And so, there's been times where Joel's been taking some games off, and I just don't know within Rick Carlisle's system and then moving up and down if Joel is built for 82 games of doing that. That's my only concern.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I definitely don't think he's built for 82, but sure, if he can give you 68 to 70, that sure we'll take it.
But 68 and 70 plus, you assuming you go into the finals, so you're gonna need him the most in the postseason. So yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Shout out to the Pacers. I think when Rick Carlisle got fired or got let go from the Mavericks, like, it seems like he's been able to reinvent himself with Indiana. So, I'm pretty sure even if the Indiana would never make the finals, I think that they are ecstatic even making it this far. So
yeah, the city of Indianapolis is up right now, bro. you got Caitlin Clark on one end, you got Halliburton and the Pacers on the other end, and then you got the Colts.
All right, let's chill out. We in the same boat. We coming. Okay, so let me ask you this: who wins a championship first, the Fever or the Pacers?
I'm gonna say the Fever. like I said, bro, the way this Pacers roster is set up, bro, I don't see them winning the championship. So unless they go and get a star, and I don't even know who that star is. That's the thing. Who's the star that fits this roster? How it's currently constructed? I don't know. So maybe they do run it back with the same roster, and you just hope that somebody, takes over. Like, I do think that with this roster, Nembhard, Miles Turner, Nesmith, if they have a couple big games, they could win a series against anybody. So maybe it is possible that they could win a championship. Maybe it is possible. But they're going to need those role players to have a big game. I don't know if that's going to happen for, let's say, 2 games or 3 games in a finals appearance.
But I guess my only concern with that, though, is we've acknowledged that Tyrese is on a roster filled with B- players, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that roster going to look like when you have to pay these B- players money?
That's the thing. So, like, you could possibly trade them and actually go get a level type player before you have to pay them, and just let them pay them that A type money in that situation. But again, who's that player? That player? That's my only thing, bro. Like, it's like, who's that player? You got OG, you got Mikal, maybe Jaylen Brown, maybe Tatum, but Tatum's hurt at the moment. But, like, who else is out there that they can get that's a 2 or 3 type player that moves the needle and gets them over the hump to get a championship? Do you bring PG back?
Nah. No, that'd be a waste of money and time, honestly, to me. I'm thinking, like, do you...
it's not going to be a young player because they already got young players. So it's probably going to have to be somebody older. At least 27 would be my thought, age-wise. If they're bringing somebody in.
Could you make a call to New Orleans and get Zion?
I don't think that's getting them a championship, bro. Plus, you got to think, if they do try to get Zion, you probably giving up Siakam, maybe Miles Turner. Like, they're probably going to be asking for a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Zion's not just coming over there for a bag of chips.
Yeah, that's real. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that piece is. I don't know what they can do to win now, because even if you make a big move, that doesn't guarantee you a chip, right? Because I think Tyree still has a little bit more development to do, and I feel like the question is, with those B minus guys, have we seen them at their peak, or is there any more potential? I think the only one right now where I can say he can be better is Nimhart. But Nimhart, I believe he needs his own team. I feel like Nimhart with the ball in his hands, kind of like a Gonzaga, like he did with Gonzaga, he can flourish and he can become an A. I just don't know if any of those B plus guys can become A's outside of him.
Yeah, yeah. That's who I'm biggest on is Nimhart.
Yeah.
Like looking at his defense, bro. Just the defense alone, not even looking at the offensive side of things, bro. He gonna defend.
Yeah.
Anybody that's going to defend, they could be on my team. They can stay on my team. Knicks, let's go get him. Give up Josh Hart.
Nah, you can't. You can't.
Can we do a 1-for-1 swap? Can we do Josh Hart for Nimhart?
I like Josh Hart though, because I feel like Josh Hart's value on a team is not even seen on the stat sheet. Like it's clear that he is a blue guy. So
yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess speaking on that, let's segue to that series. So unfortunately, Boston has gone down 3-1. Shout out to the Knicks. Can't even say any smut on Thibodeau's name, because Thibodeau, he's been winning these games. Obviously, the biggest thing in the series has been Jason Tatum. With his health, he went down this past game in Game 4, and doctors reported today or yesterday, I believe, that he ruptured his Achilles. And I'm not even gonna be the one to say that was the reason why, because they were losing when he got injured. And so there's a couple of thoughts that I have on the series, but I'm gonna go and let you speak.
Nah. You go ahead, brother. Yeah, y'all down 1-3. Yeah, go ahead.
So you sent me that text a couple of days ago about what Gil said about the basketball, and if we would have played real basketball, we would have been up for it. And I 100% agree. I think, like I've said since the beginning of the playoffs, I don't mind us beating teams by 30. But my question was, when we lost that game to Orlando 95-93, I said it worries me about Missoula's late game adjustments, because what Missoula troubles me with, after even going all the way back to the game I went to the Pistons game, we do not get out of the ideology of that 3-and-D mentality. And that analytics, it has helped us throughout the regular season, but I think in the postseason, where physicality matters and strategy matters, it has hurt us. And the thing is, everybody on our team can shoot. Derek White, we saw, he came out of the game strong. Jason Tatum almost had a historic performance before the injury. And I think the problem is we weren't getting that same production from Jaylen Brown. And I think that Jaylen Brown's game really flourishes outside of the three. I think he can defend and he can drive to the rim. And I think that his mid-game driving to the rim, being aggressive, is what opens up everybody else. And so I think because everybody was around the perimeter just waiting for who's going to get the open shot, it kind of created a lot of dysfunction in terms of players' individual games. And that's what's really hurting us. I think the second biggest thing is Kristaps. Like, the Kristaps we saw last year was great because he could, he had a mismatch on everybody. They guarded him and he was able to shoot the three. But this year, we're not getting that same production. I know he was sick at the beginning of the series, but if you're on the court, you don't get judged equally. And I don't think he's been able to provide that same production. And where we lose out with Kristaps not providing on the offensive end, we lack the size on the defensive end. So we're able to allow Mitchell Robinson to get offensive rebounds. We're able to allow Cat, to post up and, get his. And then on top of all of that, we have nobody to guard JB. Like, I'm trying to hope that we had Jaylen Brown and Jalen Brunson, but when I watch the game, I'm like, okay, Jaylen Brown can't guard Jalen Brunson. So I think when you look at it in its totality, I'm kind of glad this is happening to us, because I don't think analytics should be the god when it comes to how basketball should be played. I think analytics is a big factor, but it has to be paired with, just common sense. Like, we had a lot of mismatches, and when you look at our roster, we have guys that can get to the rim. The problem is we're not utilizing it correctly, and I think Joe Mazzulla has to wake up and understand that, you can't sometimes outsmart the room. Sometimes you have to understand what everybody else is doing and see what your mismatches is and lean in on those strengths, regardless of what you think your strengths are, because your strengths are going to vary game to game because of matchup problems. So it's going to be unfortunate. And after this, we can talk about the future with Boston, especially with this Tatum injury. But those are some of my immediate thoughts when I've been watching this game. It's been disappointing, but I got to get my hats off to Cleveland, to the Knicks. Now, the only thing I will say, don't let us get one.
Series over, man. Series
That's
over.
all I'm saying.
Get ready for the off season. Y'all can win 1 or 2 more. It don't matter to me. Series over.
That's all I'm saying. Don't let us get
series over. It's over, man. Hang it up. I'm gonna have to issue an apology to Mr. Jalen Brunson. Because I definitely thought the Celtics had multiple people to defend this man. And like you said, nobody's been getting it done. Nobody's been getting it done. He's been hitting the big shots. Whenever the Knicks needed a big shot, he's knocking it down. And shout out to Mikal Bridges too, man. Mikal Bridges been hitting some big shots too. Shout out to him. I know I'll be getting on Cat too about being soft and crying about fouls, but he's been cooking too. You look at it at the end of the game, check them numbers. Cat getting a double-double. Easy. 20 and 12, 20 and 15. Easy. And shout out to Mitchell Robinson. He can't hit a free throw, but he can get a rebound. he can get a rebound. Shout out to Mitchell for his rebounding.
Who's had a better postseason as far as Tyrese or Jalen Brunson?
Oh, I'm gonna have to. Jalen Brunson. I'm gonna say Jalen Brunson. I think his ability to score. Without his scoring, I don't think the Knicks are up in this series at all. I don't think they come back from being down 20 multiple games. Of course, Halliburton just knocked off the number 1 seed. But I think the Knicks will go as far as Jalen Brunson takes them.
Yeah, I don't want to say Jalen, but I'm going to have to say Tyrese. And the only reason I would say that is because I think if he doesn't knock down that shot, we're talking about the Pacers completely different, because I think Cleveland would have enough to beat them if they would have won that game too. And even he hit some big shots and had some big moments versus the Bucks. He was part of that comeback with them in Game 5, I believe, when they were down 7 with like a minute to go. And it seems like as much as I talk about Cat, that Game 4 performance was probably the best game of Cat's career, like just in terms of the stakes and what he was able to produce. Versus the Pistons, of course. And I don't know if Tyrese has had that same number 2 by his side. I feel like the Pacers number 2 is more of a collective than a person. I think it's neck and neck, but I think Jalen's been the most valuable, but I think in terms of best right now, I would say Tyrese.
Okay. Yeah. I can respect that. I'm not mad at either choice. Hopefully they get the matchup in the next round. Hopefully the Knicks, take care of business and we actually get to see those two going at it. But both
so
hooping.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, since you're a Knicks fan, right? So this whole regular season, the Knicks can beat good teams. Every contender they lost. What clicked? Like, what was the difference between what you saw then versus what you see now?
I don't know, bro. It's like a wheel thing, bro. Like the playoffs just activate something different, bro. Like we talked about, bro. Like you're down 20 points. You're expected to lose that game. You're expected to lose both of those games, bro. But like they just don't quit, bro. They just not quitting right now. So I don't know if it was just like coasting through the regular season and just like, oh, we'll see them again type mentality or what. But now come the playoffs, like you're back against the wall, you down 20 and you come back multiple games against one of the best teams in the East. Like that's big, bro. Like I know them boys riding high right now, and like we talked about, like the Knicks are built to beat the Celtics. Like they literally constructed this roster when it got wings, when it got OG, when it got Mikhail, added Cat to literally beat the Celtics, bro. Like the way the roster is constructed, bro. Like those starters are gonna go. They're gonna play. We know Tibbs' mentality, his philosophy. He gonna let them go. But them boys just playing hard, man. Them boys just playing hard, man. So I gotta give it to them, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think what it really comes down to is the Knicks. Let me think. Yeah, I feel like the Knicks have been the most physical team in this postseason, and they've been rewarded because the refs really swallow the whistle in the postseason. So there's a lot of things that they probably wouldn't have been able to get away with in the regular season that, teams get tired. And I feel like a lot of what I'm seeing with Boston is like, man, sometimes I'm like, man, we're just too soft. And New York, like you said, they just had more will in them. And like you said just now, it's like they've had more moments this season where their back's been against the wall. They know how to face adversity. We haven't. And I don't think that, when we talk about, we've dominated the regular season and blown people out, sometimes that can be a curse because you don't have moments of adversity where you really have to buckle up and look around your locker room and say, hey, we need to tighten up. And I feel like that was really a pivotal moment, especially beating Detroit. The benefit with y'all beating Detroit and us beating the Magic was like, y'all were able to grit it out. Y'all were able to go through adversity and prepare for moments where you have to deal with a 1-point game with 4 minutes left. I don't think we had that same luxury. And so you can see it in the series where Detroit has been up and y'all walked them down. We haven't. So it's like when we're down 20 versus when y'all down 20, it's much different in terms of the vibe of the overall team. So yeah, there's nothing I can say about that. I just hope that, Boston can at least make it competitive again. So, and the thing is, everybody's saying, hey, the series is over because Tatum's injured, but I'm like, we got to be accountable because the whole season we were like, we have the deepest roster in the league and we have multiple stars who can score. Okay, we have the finals MVP on our team that's still healthy. So it's time for him to step up. I look at this team the same. Like, obviously the dynamic has changed because Tatum's out, but we were 8-2 without Tatum in the regular season. So we have to let that transition. And this is where the onus is not just on Jalen, KP, Derek White, Drew Holiday, but it's also on Joe Mazzulla. Like, this is where you make your money as a coach. Can we still compete? And I think even if we lose, the criticism has to remain. So it's not too much slack for me. Obviously, we want Tatum to come back, but I still look at this Celtics team the same.
Do you think that what do you think the conversation this offseason is going to be if/when the Celtics lose this series?
You got a lot of faith, brother. I respect it. The first thing, we know this roster was never going to come back the same because of the luxury tax. We got new ownership for a reason. It's getting really expensive to keep everybody there. The first piece I'm looking to move is KP because I think KP is, trended in the opposite direction. And I think he no longer provides the same offensive production that he did the seasons before. And it was good to have him on a valuable deal, but now it's like, okay, we're paying him a lot of money for what? I don't know what you could get for him. I'm definitely keeping Derek White because I think Derek White is, pivotal piece on our roster. Like we saw last game, he keeps us in a lot of games and he provides a dynamic on defense and he can knock down the three. I have some honest conversations with Drew because, Drew is still a good defender. I don't know if we can necessarily say like elite, especially with, him. And there's no smut on his name. It's like he's been great for so long, but him and Al, sometimes when I'm looking at the game, it's like, man, they're getting older and it's not the same. So whether we can package those pieces and maybe go after a Giannis or a KD, that's an option. Or saying, hey, we know we're going to sacrifice this next year and let's prepare for what the team looks like around Tatum and go get young pieces and start to build and see what we got. That's the only two options to me. But yeah, I personally would keep JB, but I can see if we get the right offer with the right team, I will move him as well.
I'll tell you this, Adam Silver not letting y'all get Giannis or KD. So you can throw that out the window. That ain't happening.
But see, I don't know though, bro, because, and we'll talk about this at the later end of the episode with the draft lottery, but like, I think Adam wants the Lakers and Boston to be a rivalry again. You know, I talked about it on Substack. Like, this was a signal that, you know, Adam wants, because the league has always been the best in terms of ratings when Boston and the Celtics and Lakers have been, you know, both good. Not necessarily saying they're going to win the championship, but if we can compete on both ends of America, on both coasts, it makes the league that much better. So I don't necessarily think that he wouldn't. I just think the route that it takes to get there would be a little bit more difficult than any other team, because where we have players that we can package together, you know, the cap space still gets kind of tricky, you know, because you have to match salaries, and if you bring Giannis on, you're definitely gonna have to move some other pieces. And we're hoping that Giannis can carry us, you know, especially if we have to move JB for most of the season, right? Because Tatum will be recovery, and we got to see how Tatum looks coming back. But yeah, I think Adam Silver wants them to be good. Every big market team, I think he's trying to get to be good.
Yeah. We gonna see.
So okay. Before we move to the Western Conference, do the Knicks currently with Brunson, OG, Kyle, Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart, and all them boys, do they have enough right now to win an NBA Finals?
No, I don't think either of these teams or any of these teams now that's remaining in the Eastern Conference is winning the championship.
Really? You don't think if they get to the finals, they don't have enough grit to beat either the Thunder, Nuggets, Timberwolves, or the Warriors? So I guess we can say the Timberwolves.
They could beat the Warriors. Yeah, they could beat the Warriors. I definitely think like it's not gonna be a cakewalk. Like, I don't think it's gonna be like a sweep or like a 5-game series either way. I definitely think they're gonna compete. I think both of these teams, well, I guess if you look at the Pacers and the Knicks, right? The two main teams that are left in the Eastern Conference, right? I think this boy is gonna compete against any team in the West. I think if the Thunder make it, yeah, I like the Knicks' chances against the Thunder. The Nuggets, I don't know. Timberwolves, I don't know. That would be a great series though. Timberwolves versus Knicks, especially after the big trade.
I know you apologize, but is Brunson a star or a superstar?
I don't know, bro. I don't really separate the two, bro. Like, I think he's a star. I don't know. Like,
is he top 10?
Could be. I think he's more in that 10 to 15 range. But I mean, he could be top 10.
Is he better than Donovan Mitchell?
I think so, me personally.
Yeah, I mean, if he's better than Donovan Mitchell, he's definitely a star. I think he's in that, looking into that superstar category. Because the thing is, he's just, every time I want to say, okay, this is Jalen Brunson, he always proves me wrong. Like, he does something that's like, all right, I didn't think he could do this, but he's definitely defying expectations. And I don't know if that's just, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the shot selection, as I've talked about before. But like you said, like, he just keeps hitting big shots, bro. Like, maybe that's in his blood, maybe that's in his DNA. Like, maybe I'm just being hard on the man, but I'm not too big on the shot selection, but he keeps proving me wrong. Keep proving me wrong, Jalen Brunson. Keep on.
If he makes the finals this year, will he be regarded in the Knicks community as a better Knick than Melo?
If he makes the finals, yeah. I mean, you would have to. He would have to. Like, as much as Melo did, and Melo's my favorite player. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to go on. Obviously, the game is tonight at 7 p.m. Game 5. Knicks at Boston. So this is a big game for Boston. Knicks are looking to close it out. So let's move up to the Western.
Who you got winning tonight?
Oh, Boston. Come on, I can't go. Come on. Yeah, I got Boston. I just think now there's no bias. Like, it's gonna be a struggle because we can either come out two different ways. We can either just say, hey, we're gonna mail it in and get our tickets ready to Cancun, or we can rally around this injury. Because I still think like Tatum is a huge piece on our roster. Do not get me wrong, Celtics fans. But what I'm saying is we built this roster to say, hey, Tatum is going to be our star, but we can still function even without Tatum. Tatum has been out, and we have a winning record without Tatum. I'm not saying that we're going to win a championship without Tatum, but what I'm saying is we can beat teams without Tatum. With our strategy when we hit shots, and we got to hope that the Knicks are playing the same way that they played in these past 2 games, because we were up 13 in the third quarter. So, and a lot of that was because of Tatum's 42, I think he had. But a lot of it is because they couldn't stop Derek White. Derek White was just knocking down shot after shot. But we need the KPs of the world to step up now. We're going to need everybody to elevate one tick. Jalen has to look like a 1. Derek White has to look more like a 2. Everybody's going to have to, step up. It's going to be a winning by committee. And like I said with Joe Mazzulla, I don't think we're going to be up 13 anymore throughout the game. It's going to be a gritty series, but if we can muck it up, and if the Knicks are on their high horse and we can catch them, yeah, I believe we can win tonight.
So with your reservations about them being able to win close games, you think this game is going to be close, or you think it's going to be a blowout?
It's going to be close. I told you, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be close. But if Jaylen Brown can step up, we can win this game. But it's a large if based on this postseason. That's all I'm saying. I got to ride with my boys, but I don't know. If Jalen Brunson, regardless of Tatum injury, if he can come in and shut us up in Boston, hey, y'all got my respect. Y'all go win it for the East. But come on, we got to stand firm, man. Come on, this is Boston. We can't just lay it down. No, that's not the Celtics' pride. Like, come on. It has to mean something. Like, no.
Okay.
No.
I hear you.
Yeah, but I'm sure you got the Knicks tonight, right?
Yeah. Let's close it out, man.
Yeah.
Put the dog to sleep, man.
We can't go out like the Pacers did the Cavs, man. Like, that was pitiful. I can't sit here on my TV and watch that. No, there's no pride. But yeah, let's go over to the Western Conference. So I'm gonna start with the team on the bottom of the bracket with the 6 and 7, the Timberwolves and the Warriors. As y'all know from the last time we recorded, Steph went down with a hamstring injury. Everybody's saying that he could be back in Game 6, but I don't know if it will get to a Game 6 because Minnesota has the opportunity to close it out tonight. The series kind of went how I expected once Steph went down. The Warriors have no offensive production. Everybody was hoping for that playoff Jimmy. But I feel like for Jimmy, he's like, at this point in my career, I can't do this on my own. Draymond Green had that excellent Game 1, but, the offensive production has waned since then. And, a lot of the production on the Timberwolves have come from Ant and JR. We haven't even gotten big games from the role players yet. So I'm curious to know what you think about the series, and is it over for Golden State?
First of all, they'll never call Julius Randle JR again.
He was called JR.
Hey, I had to think about who you was talking about for a sec. I'm like, JR? Who's he talking about? I'm like, Julius Randle. I was like, okay. Don't ever do that again in your life.
JR.
Don't ever call that man no JR again. Don't nobody call that man no JR. First of all,
people do call him JR, bro.
Who call him JR?
Man, look, every podcast I listen to is JR. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, Julius Randle, AE and JR. Like, please stop. But I
Don't
respect
nobody
it.
call this man no JR, bro.
I
Stop
respect
it.
it because I've been the main
Anyways,
one talking about nicknames. All right.
back to your question. Yes, the series is over for the for the Warriors. Pack it up, like you said. No offensive production, bro. Like you're banking on Pods. You're banking on Buddy Hill. You're banking on Draymond. Like just throw in the towel. Just lay down. Do what the Cavs did. Get ready for the off season, man. Lay down. Yeah. Get healthy. No need to prolong your L. Don't prolong your L, bro, because y'all not winning this series, bro. Y'all not
Yeah.
winning this series. It's over, bro. Timberwolves to the Western Conference Finals again.
Nah, that's a fact. When I saw Kevin Knox in the second quarter, I was like, yeah, y'all packed it up. There's just no hope. The Kerry can't sit on the bench and say, man, this roster's going to win versus the Timberwolves. And I'm going to just say this, man. Kevon Looney's so sorry, dog. Like, I'm sorry, man. This is ridiculous. Quentin Post, Kevon Looney, like, Curry deserves better, man. And I honestly think I guess we can go here. For the Warriors, I know we texted about it, but like, what do you do if you're the GM of the Warriors? Do you run this roster back? Like, because clearly, I don't think that this is a top roster in the West, even if Steph is at his peak. So, what moves do you make in the offseason, or moves can you make even?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't think they should run run it back with this roster that they have. They definitely got to make some upgrades. Um, question is who? Like, do you move on from Draymond? They've already moved on from Clay. Do you just blow it up and move on from Draymond? Does Draymond even come back, or does Draymond retire? That's a question as well. But I definitely think they got to make some upgrades. I think Steph and Jimmy are definitely good pieces, but them together is not winning a championship. You need more. Like you said, Quentin Post, Kayvon Looney. What are we doing at the center position, dog? What are we doing? So definitely an upgrade there. Um, if you aren't comfortable with Buddy Hield as a starting two, move on from him. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, yeah, like they nothing from the bench. I mean, Kaminga. I mean, he definitely doesn't want to be there. So, do you try to convince him that he's gonna have a bigger role? Do you hope he can have a bigger role, or do you trade him and try to get something for him? So they definitely have some questions. Definitely shouldn't run it back with this roster. If they do try to run it back with this roster, they might be worse than what they were this year. You never know. I mean, Jimmy looked good when he joined the team, but is that going to be sustainable for an entire season? We don't we don't know.
so, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful with this question, but like, is there a question? What do you, as a GM, do you sit down with Steph and say, "Hey, I know you want to win a championship. Let's go and see what the market is and get a haul so that we can focus on our future and get you to a place where you can win and win now." Like, I believe Steph deserves to be a Warrior for life, but that's the question. Do you consider that question in the offseason?
I mean,
Because you're
maybe
not
you think about it, but if you're Steph Curry, it's just like, bruh, like I'm not leaving. Like it is what it is, bro. Like I can't picture Steph Curry in a different uniform. Me personally, not at this stage in his career. Like maybe he contemplates retiring if that question does come up. Maybe he just retires. Like, bro, I'm not going nowhere. Like I feel like yes, from an organization, yeah, you might want to look into trading Steph. But if you're Steph, it's just like, bro, like I'm not going nowhere. Like I wouldn't want to leave if I were Steph, me personally. Like
yeah.
just hug it out with the Warriors. Whenever Draymond decides to hang it up, we going together. Whatever the case may be. Like I do think that Steph can play at a high level. Still, I just don't see him being on a different team than the Warriors.
I agree. I
I
just
think
feel like,
if
go ahead.
I think if anything, they try to continue to build around Steph. So you make those upgrades in the offseason. You go get a center. You go get a true starting shooting guard to pair in the backcourt with them. I think you go out and make those moves.
Mm. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out who that is because, like, I mean, Mark
Do you
Williams
go
is,
get Giannis?
but that's the thing, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't think they have many picks because I don't know what they gave up in the Jimmy trade. But even you can't just say I'm gonna put my role players together and go ask Milwaukee because Milwaukee's gonna get offers from 30 other teams, 29 other teams. So it's like, do you have enough to even compete, get in the conversation? So
Yeah,
there's not
that's true.
really a move, because everybody's on the decline, and even your young promising pieces aren't good. Like you think about it 2 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, well, maybe three, but you had a pool. You had, you know, I
Moses
can't even
Moody,
name it.
Wiseman, Kaminga,
Yeah,
all them.
and they crashed out on Wiseman because they kind of gave up on him and just traded him for nothing. But those pieces you could have at this point in Steph's career, you could have mortgaged and said, "Hey, we're going to give you 4 Giannis." But now, even with Moses Moody's, even with Pods, I don't think Milwaukee takes that call.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like what options? Because you're going to need like I think the market right now is like a Vooch. Yeah, in terms of bigs, because you're not going to get Embiid. So that's the market they're in, unfortunately. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I don't see Steph with another team, but when you are honest as an organization, you're like, hey, Steph is our only asset that we can say, hey, we're gonna get a haul for on this roster. So for both parties, it kind of works because Steph still has championship basketball left in him. And
but who's making that call for Steph? I mean, of course, teams are going to be calling, but like, what are you hoping to get in return? And like, who are you pairing Steph with?
you wouldn't take the call if you're Boston.
Who are you giving up?
Who do you want?
I don't know about that one, bro.
No, I'm not saying that it's like that's the trade. I'm just saying like there are a lot of teams with pieces. You wouldn't take the call if you're Denver.
Yeah, but what are you giving up for Steph?
Now Denver's much tougher because their GM sucks. But I I mean I don't know. I just feel like you're gonna get 29 calls, and they're teams that will mortgage the future. And from the organization standpoint, yes, I'm taking the deal, and he doesn't have a no trade clause. So you want to do right by him because he is Steph. But Houston would take the call. Dallas would take the call. I'm just saying, like,
I don't know if
Dallas,
Dallas taking that call.
Dallas take the call.
I
I'm
don't
telling
know
you,
if Dallas taking that call.
Dallas definitely take the call.
Bro, who are they giving up?
Who do you want? Let's be real, bro. Like Dallas is taking the call.
They're
Stop
not
it.
taking that call, bro. I don't know about that one.
Man, stop.
Bro, they have the number 1 pick, AD, Kyrie. So you're moving Kyrie and what else? The number 1 pick?
You want to move Kyrie for Steph? Are you serious?
Bro, I need more than Kyrie.
Okay, Kyrie and picks.
You giving them the number 1 pick? What pick you talking about? Future picks?
It depends on what you want, bro. Like I would definitely offer every other future pick within one. Dallas taking the call, bro. I'm telling you right now. Like, there's not too many teams that's not taking that call. I don't think every team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're gonna take the call, but it's like, what am I giving up? And what are you looking for in return? Because I'm sure they're looking for a lot in return for Steph Curry. Like you said, that's probably their best trade option on that roster because the roster is not that good.
I agree. But I see a couple teams right now. I'm looking at the playoff bracket. Even in the playoff, we're just talking about playoff teams. I'm not even talking about the teams outside of the playoffs that
I just don't know if a lot of them playoff teams are making that call. Because you got to think, bro, you're giving up a lot to get Steph Curry. It's not just going to be a player for player type situation.
I agree. But some of these teams, the reason why they're not in the playoffs is because they have bad organizations, and bad organizations make dumb decisions. So we have seen Brooklyn give up their entire house for Paul Pierce and KG and got fleeced. I'm just saying there's teams out there that are willing to do everything to stay relevant. So we can go down the roster.
I just don't think Steph is just going to anybody, though. That's the thing.
Absolutely. But, okay, from that standpoint, yes. But also, Steph doesn't have a no trade clause. So you want to do right by him if you're the Warriors. But I'm just saying, if that conversation ever came up, you got to play every option on the table.
That's all I'm saying. Like that man like that, bro.
Yeah, I don't think they will. But I'm just saying, like, two things can be true. People can give astronomical offers, and they choose a lesser offer because they want to do right by Steph. But that doesn't diminish the fact that they're not going to get crazy offers. Like, there's a couple teams right now. But Charlotte would give up their left leg to get Steph. Like, we know this. That's why they're Charlotte. But if you're telling me LaMelo, if you can get LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and 5 firsts, 3 of them being pick swaps, you wouldn't think about it. Come on.
I mean, you would think about it, but Steph not going there, bro. That's why I'm trying to tell you. Steph not going there, bro.
Right. But what I'm saying is,
and I hear you with that no trade clause stuff. They not doing that man like that, bro.
Absolutely.
They not shipping him to doggone Charlotte, regardless of the offer, bro.
Yeah,
he's not going to Charlotte, bro.
My point is, I don't think he's going to Charlotte either, bro. But what I'm saying is, there are 29 other teams that are going to give offers that I believe are comparable to that. Like, it's not going to be as crazy as that, but I believe that they're going to be comparable offers that even with playoff teams, you're going to have to think about. And I think you would have this conversation with Steph and say, hey, we're not winning a championship anytime soon, even if we make crazy trades this offseason, because there's not a team that wants to give up anything for Kuminga. And Kuminga is going to be a free agent, so you don't get anything from him, but from Draymond or Jimmy. So I'm just saying you have to evaluate every option. And I think even with the 2, 4, 6, 8, the 16 teams out in the playoffs, you're going to consider something if you're a playoff team, especially on the fringe championship teams. Yeah, they'll be like, okay, if we know that Steph can get us over the hump, we'll give up something extra. Mikal Bridges got 5 firsts. You're not telling me that a playoff team won't give more than that for Steph?
How old is Steph?
Bro, stop.
How old is he?
You just were like LeBron. Oh, LeBron's 40. He can still compete. You can't be that way with LeBron, not be that way with Steph. Stop it.
Hold on, bro. Hold on.
I know where you're going.
LeBron and Steph are different. We just talked about Steph Curry having to run around. He can't move like that. You forgot about that conversation?
I remember that conversation vividly. But that was him coming off the hamstring. He has a whole offseason to prepare. You wouldn't do that for a year that you might be a championship contender? Come on, let's stop it. Steph on your team is moving.
Like I said, bro, I don't see him on a different team. So yeah, I guess you can have this conversation with yourself. But I don't see him getting traded. I don't see him getting traded off the Warriors, bro. Like, if that happens, bro, that would be shocking news to me. I don't see him trading everybody. I don't see him trading. I don't see the Warriors trading him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but I just think then if that's the case, the Warriors have to be honest about what next year looks like. Like, it's going to be much tougher in the West. And especially if Giannis and them come back. Spurs are going to be in the conversation now. Your roster is just not good enough to win a championship anymore.
It's not.
I don't think even. So it's like, okay, like Steph has to be comfortable with it. And if he is, right on to sunset, he'll get his last dance. He'll get his reunion tour.
But see, I do think they can draw in some free agents. I don't know what their money situation looks like, but if they can trade something, maybe you move Buddy Hield. Like I said, maybe you move Buddy Hield. Maybe you can get some upgrade from Buddy Hield. I don't know.
What's the upgrade? That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Let's think of some shooting guards. No. I don't know, bro. I just feel like you got to get like younger, bro. You got to get younger. Steph, Draymond, Jimmy are all old. You gotta get younger. Like I said, bring Kuminga back, bro. Convince him that he's gonna have a larger role. Bring him back.
He's not staying, bro. I think this offseason messed him up mentally. He doesn't want to be there anymore.
Nah, he don't. He definitely don't.
I get what you're saying, bro. Don't get me wrong. I believe Steph deserves to have a statue, be a warrior for life. I get that. But with that same conversation, you have to be honest with the roster. And as an organization, both have to understand that, hey, this is where we're at. Like, even Draymond, it's like, hey, Draymond, I love you. But, what we're trying to do, like, does his intangibles matter if they're not competing for championships? That's all I would ask.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know if, like I said, like I honestly feel like them boys who with Steph and Draymond will honestly retire before they go to a different team, bro. I just don't. I just can't picture them boys on a different team, bro. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. Okay, so for the Timberwolves, Timberwolves have been competing. There's been some games that's been close that I've been worried about because I know we texted about it, but it seems like if it's not on AE, where is that offensive production going to come from? I thought that, Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, Rudy, I thought when Steph went out that the Minnesota Timberwolves could play more of their game with, Rudy functioning more in the offense. But even with the Warriors losing Steph, it still seemed like Rudy wasn't able to be on the floor. And that's the only thing that really concerned me because I think with that last game with the Lakers in Game 5 when he had that 27 and 24, people thought that this was a new Rudy coming out, but it kind of looked the same with the Warriors. And so obviously with either the Thunder or the Nuggets, you're going to need Rudy in some capacity just because, they have a plethora of bigs. If you're the Thunder with Hartenstein, Chet, whatever, and even with the Nuggets, you're going to have to throw bodies at Joker. So I guess we'll start with this. Like the Timberwolves, what are your thoughts from their perspective on, how they're playing against the Warriors and do they have enough, like every team I've mentioned thus far, enough to win the NBA Finals?
I think they do have enough to win the finals. Like you talked about, like the Gobert situation, like styles make fights. Like against, like you said, against the Thunder, against the Nuggets, like that's when Gobert got to make his money. Like this series, it don't really matter. Like this series is pretty much over. Like he didn't really do much. But next series, next round, he got to show up. He got to. I think he will. I definitely expected them to cruise a little bit easier against the Warriors. Dominate a little bit more against the Warriors, especially with Steph out. But like I said, styles make fights. I do think that they have enough off the bench with Nickeil, Dante, Nas Reed, to win the championship. I think depending on the matchup next round, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, I'm confident in the Nuggets. Like if the Nuggets find a way to come back and win that series, it's gonna be tough to beat Joker, Jamal, Aaron Gordon. You got to hope that MPJ gives you something. But I think outside of the Nuggets, I think the Timberwolves are probably the team that can win it all for real. You got to think they got dropped off last year. AE been on a different level.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is this type of series is what's going to be beneficial for them winning the finals because AE hasn't had to do much. So it's like the energy and effort he's going to need in the conference finals and the finals. I think being able to coast in this series is going to give him that burst of energy where every other team, especially if, like you said, the Nuggets can win tomorrow night, both of these series that the Thunder or the Nuggets had to play have been nail biters. So it's like, I mean, obviously besides the Grizzlies Thunder series, but I'm just saying it's like they're going to be coming in depleted versus AE being able to be fresh. And like you said, styles do make fights. I think the biggest thing for Rudy is, how do I function? Like I text you either this past game or the game before. It seemed when Rudy was on the floor, they always start off slow. And I don't know if it's just because there's a clog in the lane and there's not too much movement. But I was like, why don't you go Nas Reed early? And that's the only thing that really concerns me because for either the Thunder or the Nuggets, they can both get up on you. And so I'm curious to know. I know you say Rudy's gonna have to make his money this game, but it's like if you're Chris Finch, do you risk starting Rudy out and it's still being stagnant in terms of the offensive production? Or do you go Nas Reed and say, hey, we're just gonna get you off of your game and just go with mismatch and have Nas Reed on, whoever your big is and have more of a high octane offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't see them making a move this late. It's too late in the season, too late in the series to think about making a move. I think you just ride out with Rudy at this point. The Timberwolves are a very good defensive team. Like, yes, you talk about the lack of offense with Rudy, but defensively, they match up good across the board with any of these teams that's left.
Yeah.
Like if the Thunder win, right? You got Chet, Rudy, Jalen Williams, Jaden McDaniels, A.E. Shea, Lou Dort, Mike Conley. Like they match up across the board pretty good against any of these teams that's left. So I don't think you change that up for a little bit more offensive production. I think that's when AE has to, get going early.
Yeah.
Or Julius Randle, get going early. Like they know what it is. They've been playing with this man the past 2 years. Or in Julius' case, this year. But you know what you're getting from Rudy. He's a good rebounder. He's a defender. He's going to get his points off rolling to the basket. Like he doesn't have a post game. He doesn't have a jump shot. That is what it is. You know what you're getting from him. So they've been successful last year with it. They've been successful this year with it. Do it in the playoffs. Don't switch it up now because then that changes everybody's role.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And as the sixth man, you're hoping Rudy can give you production off the bench if you change it. So I don't know.
And that ain't happening.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I guess we can get into this conversation. I guess moving forward, that roster is going to get expensive, right? Because not only are you paying AE, you're going to have to pay, continue to pay Julius, who I think is still on his previous contract. But Nas Reed's going to have to get paid. Jaden McDaniels is going to have to get paid. And we just mentioned Rudy, who's making $300 million. I don't know, whatever. But I know he's on some type of max. So win or lose, I guess when you're more inclined to run it back, but win or lose, who has to go? How do you shape this roster that gets to move forward so that you can continue to compete on this level?
Who has to go?
Yeah.
Mike Conley. Easy answer. Easy answer. Surprise! But nah, we talked about it last week, right? With Dante, with Nikhil, like maybe they want a bigger role. Maybe you move on from Rudy, like we talked about. Nas Reed may want a bigger role. Like those three dudes that they got coming off the bench, like we talked about last week, are capable of starting.
Yeah.
I think you pay Jaden, like we talked about previously. Amin Thompson, Asar Thompson, outside of them, like nobody's playing defense at a high level as Jaden McDaniels right now.
Yeah.
You keep him on your roster. Of course, you gave up a haul for Rudy, but like you said, if you want more of an offensive production, pay Nas Reed, sign Nas Reed, let him start, move Rudy, see what you can get for him. So I think Rudy and Conley are probably the only two. like we talked about, like a lot of these teams are not going to look drastically different. Like I don't see them moving Julius. I don't see them moving Jaden. I don't see them moving Ant-Man. Like that's not happening. Those three are going to stay. Outside of that, anybody else can go. If Nikhil wants to go have a bigger role, if Dante wants to go have a bigger role, if Nas wants to go have a bigger role, of course you want to keep Nas, but if he wants to go, try to get something for him at least.
Yeah, and I think that Game 5 with the Lakers was probably the best thing that could happen for the Timberwolves because it makes them marketable on the, if they try to put them on the block. Because as much as Rudy has, I guess, not done in this series, every image that's on every basketball fan's mind is that 27-24 game. Because it's like, okay, this is the Rudy we've been waiting on. And I feel like, just like we said, we're talking about a 16 teams now, but there are other teams on, sorry rosters that are willing to give maybe another max to Rudy. We've seen crazy contracts before. And even if he's not getting a max, I think that Minnesota could at least get something back for him that's notable. And it clears up cap space. So, yeah, I agree. Rudy's the move I would make just to see what's out there because I believe – so, okay, with Nas Reed, though, do you believe that he can have the same kind of production as a conventional starter? Or is he like I'm not making a direct comparison, but is his value more like a Jamal Crawford where him coming off the bench on any roster, he'll get you the bolster of energy y'all need for your second unit?
I think it depends. I think he's definitely the third option on this current Timberwolves roster, right? If he does decide to take over that starting center position, right? You got Ant-Man, who's number one option. Julius is clearly the number two. Maybe they juggle back and forth between 2 and 3 between him and Nas Reed, and they alternate nights. But I guess you just gotta wait and see. Like everybody can't make that transition, like you said, from the bench to starting. I think the best person to do that has been James Harden. Yeah. But you just got to wait and see. Like we didn't know until we saw him get the keys in Houston how good he could be as a starter. So we just got to wait and see, man. And like I said, he had the keys. He wasn't coming into the starting situation as a third option like Nas Reed will be. So we got to factor that in as well. Too.
Yeah, that's true. And like we said, we both believe that Nas Reed has the ability to be a plus kind of guy. But what does Nas Reed contract look like? And how does that shape the dynamic of the Timberwolves after that? Because your roster is real expensive and you lose depth with giving people maxes because everybody that they mentioned, I think between Jaden and Nas, they have compelling arguments to get a max in this current setting with NBA. So you're gonna have to make some tough decisions because everybody can't have a max. Yeah. So I guess this has been probably the tightest series of the playoffs with the Thunder and Nuggets. It's been 3-2. It's been low key like a lazy series, like where the Thunder, the Nuggets, and Clippers, it was more of a dynamic, back and forth battle. It seemed like this series, from what I've watched, has been a lot of mistakes, and it seems like fatigue has set in on the Nuggets more so than the Thunder. But I think for both teams, there's a level of fatigue that's caused a lot of missed shots and just kind of bad basketball. So, give me your thoughts on the series so far.
Yeah, I was watching them play Sunday. That game was gross. You talk about missed shots, like that was ugly. But I think like I talked about, like the Nuggets are getting no production from MPJ, none at all. Like he got to give them something. Jokic out here doing what he can do. Jamal, AG, nothing from MPJ. I think if MPJ gives them something, they're probably up in this series. If he gives them anything, they're up in this series easily. I I still have faith in them against the Thunder. I know they're down 3-2. Um, this could easily go 7. This could
Yeah,
easily go 7. But we got to see what MPJ gonna do. He got to give him something.
yeah, I agree. I low key have more faith in the Nuggets moving forward. Like they can win one. I still trust the Nuggets to win the series. Because the Nuggets have been up in every game that I've watched thus far. They just haven't been able to finish because I think they're relying so much on Joker and they're relying on Murray. And in a weird way, I think Russ has brought so much energy to the team that I feel like him being tired, Russ being tired is not necessarily, hey, bending over and just saying like puffing and puffing. But I can see like even in his shot selection, like it's just been terrible. And like he had like 2 straight air balls last night. And I was just like, Russ, stop it. And I believe it's because he's going so fast, so many like throughout the game that when it's time to make big shots in crucial moments, he's just fatigued. And like you said with MPJ, it's just like, okay, if you're hurt, just sit down. But we gotta be honest because he always is hurt on the defensive end. And when it's time to grab rebounds. But when it's on the offensive end, he just looks like MPJ missing shots.
He letting it
I'm
fly.
just like, right, we got to be honest. Like, are you just having a bad game? Is this attributed to injury? I think it's a little bit of both. And I think with what worries me about Adelman is like the coach. It's like, man, you're asking Jokic to go 48 every night, and I don't think that's sustainable because, like we know, with the Thunder, they're just so deep that they are always fresh. From the Thunder perspective, thing that worries me a lot is just Chet. Man, Chet gets lost on that court, and I think if every game you're hoping that SGA can give you 20, it almost feels like SGA has to give you 20 in order for us to be successful. And you got a lot of role pieces that I don't know can get you that production night to night. And if they are that SGA reliant, then it only takes one game for him not to be like that, and their offense is discombobulated. That's the only thing that really worries me. But like you said, man, I still have faith in the Nuggets. Actually, more faith than anything in any team that's down, throughout the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you with both SGA and Chet. I think SGA did a great job of walking them down the last game. He literally took over that in the end. But they got to find ways to get Chet involved. Like I talked about in that overtime game, right? Like Chet had Jamal Murray on him in regulation.
Yeah.
Bro, why are you just standing in the corner, bro? Go post up. Get him the ball. He got at least a 6 inches height difference on Jamal Murray. Let him post up Jamal Murray. If they send a double, kick it out. If not, go up over him. He's not blocking your shot.
Yeah.
Like you got to find a way to exploit mismatches. I think they don't do the best job of that, the Thunder, and maybe that's the way they play. A lot of isolation ball, like you mentioned, with SGA or Jalen Williams, and everybody else just kind of standing around looking. But like, take advantage of the mismatches.
Yeah. But it seems like that from the dynamic of the locker room, from what I see, is like, hey, it's like the SGA like and the backup dancers and the backup singers. Like we're just here to support the SGA show. Like in the same way that they gotta make way for Chet to get the ball, Chet's gotta command it. Like if you're a two and you have a mismatch, I expect you to go and get the ball and say, hey, like SGA, you're cooking, but let me get this because this is a matchup problem. That comes down to Chet's personality and the personality of the rest of the team. And I just feel like in terms of the alpha, I only see an alpha being SGA, and that's what concerns me. So
yeah, I will say, man, Jalen Williams been hooping.
Yeah,
been hooping. And we talked about it a couple episodes ago, I believe, but like their bench pieces, pretty solid, bro. Caruso, Joe, Wiggins, they can hoop. It's just like you said, who's gonna step up consistently to help out SGA?
Yeah. So I guess the Thunder, if everything goes like we expected, right, with the Nuggets winning the series, what do you do if you're the Thunder?
I don't know. I think the conversation has been around them giving up their younger pieces to go get a star, but I don't know, bro. I don't know. Like I said, like yes, I believe in the Nuggets, but like let's not act like the Thunder not up 3-2. Like all they need is one more win. And they have the pieces to get that one more win. So I don't know if that's even gonna be a conversation. They could very well take care of business and go on to the Western Conference Finals. But I don't know, man. I don't know if you give up those young pieces to bring in a star. Like you said, that doesn't guarantee a championship.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll see.
I think what I keep thinking is just with Jalen Williams, because he's emerging more so as the two than Chet. And what's Jalen Williams' ceiling? Because, as the league progresses, as the West gets tougher, SJ is going to need help. And he's going to need a 1A, 2, like a 1A and a 2, and a 2. And the reason why I said 1A, he's going to need a 2 that could easily be a 1B. And to consistently win championships. And the question is, can any of those guys on the roster become that piece? Because it seems like you have one and a lot of threes that desire to become twos. And I just don't know if that's sustainable long terms, if that's their cap. I believe Jalen Williams and Chet can get better, but it requires Chet to get in the weight room, Chet to be more commanding on offense, and Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams has to be a little bit more consistent, especially with the offensive production. Because there's some games he's had 9, some games he's had 8. He's going to need to be a consistent, at least 20-point scorer to be a bona fide 2 in this league. And what does that look like moving forward, I guess?
I will say though, like I think that's also a part of like how they play too. Like you said, like it's like the SGA show and everybody else. So maybe they need to change how they play.
Yeah.
Maybe run more plays for Jalen Williams and Chet to truly see exactly how good they are. Because like I said, Jalen Williams was hooping yeah, like 30 something the other night. So it's like we see it, like you said, he has to be consistent, but I think that consistency, I think we mentioned this with somebody else, a different team a couple of episodes ago about like how they play. Like that impacts how a player looks on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
You got to run plays for people. You got to establish roles and understand that, okay, Jalen Williams is our second option.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so since we covered all the teams, give me your. Now, I don't necessarily believe like you have to say the matchup that you think, but what matchup for the finals would be the most exciting for you as a basketball fan with the teams we got left?
I don't know, man. I'm really looking forward to this Knicks and Pacers series. Like, forget the finals. Like, that's gonna be a great series.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a great series in itself. Like I said earlier, like I don't think either one of those teams are gonna win the championship. I would like to see once again the 2 young stars going at it. AE and Shea in the Western Conference. That would be tough. I think the Timberwolves are poised to win a championship. I think they're in the best shape to win a championship. I guess Timberwolves versus Knicks would be the series that I would want to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of storylines of that Timberwolves Knicks series, obviously with the Cat trade and DiVincenzo trade early in the offseason. But I think the bigger story is we have talked about AE, and we've had face of the league conversations. And it seems like he doesn't want it, but he's kind of thrusted himself into it by winning and beating all these legends in a sense. But I guess like in that same vein, we've never put Jalen Brunson in that conversation. But I think if Jalen Brunson gets the Knicks, carries the Knicks to a championship, I'm not saying face of the league because I don't necessarily believe that will happen. But going into the offseason, what's the conversation around Jalen Brunson, right? Because I don't think we've ever put him in the league conversation, and I think we've kind of been weird to put him in the star conversation. But I think he solidified himself as a star in this postseason. But I'm curious to know, just in my lifetime, like did Melo get to an Eastern Conference Finals?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and so
second round a lot.
Yeah, and so I've never seen the Knicks, be this relevant this late, and so obviously coming back with Tatum being injured, Dame being injured, I'm pretty sure the Knicks would be high in terms of favorites to represent the East again. Not saying that'll happen. I'm just saying in terms of what bettors will probably decide going into the offseason. So I feel like this conversation is really going to be a shift in terms of not only passing the torch from the legends to these new age players, but who's going to take on that mantle. And I think in the same way we're talking about AE being a face of the league, I think if Jalen Brunson carries, he at least deserves to sit at the table. So,
and I think that's the case for both of the Eastern Conference teams, right? Look at Halliburton too. Like, if he gets the Pacers to the championship, we gotta have a conversation.
Yeah, but see, my only problem with that though, and it's nothing on their games. I'm just saying the thing that Jalen Brunson benefits the most is New York. Like you win in New York, you win in these big markets, it propels you. I think AE is in the conversation because we've seen the talent, we've seen him knock off people. But I think for Jalen Brunson, there's a jump start in that conversation because he wins in New York. He's going to be the talk of New York media, especially with the Giants and Jets being sorry. And I'm curious to know what the league looks like with New York being championship contenders, like solidified championship contenders. Because I think, it's one thing, kind of like how people used to say with the Dallas quarterbacks. It's like it's one thing to be a quarterback on a random team, and it's another to be good as a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Marketing, everything goes up. And I think for JB, that's what I'm saying. This offseason is going to be crucial if they win the finals, because now it's like, man, I think we'll go from saying Jalen Brunson is a fringe star to now we're saying, hey, we're going to have these conversations about face of the league because of what he did and overcame. Yeah. That's probably going to be the most exciting series for me because I think both are dynamic, man. Jalen Brunson hits big shots. AE, we know what he can do, right? And I think in terms of marketing, that probably is what the NBA wants. Because Thunder are a great team, but it's kind of boring sometimes watching them play, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about is this draft lottery. So last night we saw, before the game, they did the draft lottery, and it surprised the world because everybody was expecting, Charlotte and Washington to be in the conversation, but it went completely different because as the teams were revealed, the Mavericks ended up getting the number 1 pick, and the Spurs ended up getting the number 2 pick, and the Hornets got the number 4 pick. I believe Washington got the number 6 pick. So what were your thoughts on the draft lottery? And I guess, what do you think about the lottery as a system moving forward as a whole? Because I know in the chat we were talking about the lottery, but what are your thoughts on it?
I'm not too big of a fan of the lottery, me personally. Like, I like how the NFL does it with, the worst teams just get, higher picks. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Dallas, man. They up right now. Even the Spurs. Spurs got 2 lottery picks, 2 and 14. So the boys is in good shape. I'm excited to see the Spurs, in all honesty. Like, bro, the past 2 rookie of the years on your team, and you have the number 2 pick. Like, that's enticing. They could possibly move it, possibly make the pick. Even the 76ers at 3, like they got third pick. So I mean, shoot, what's the future in Philly look like? Now for the teams that missed out, the Jazz, the Hornets. I mean, Washington sucks. It sucks. I mean, I know y'all are hoping to get that number 1 pick, but hey, it is what it is, man. But yeah, I think I'm most excited to see what the Spurs do with that 2 pick and with that 14 pick.
Yeah, I think what the NBA was trying to show, and we can talk about the conspiracies and all that, but what I think what Adam Silver was trying to weighing against his teams being rewarded for tanking. And so like for Washington, them to go in down to number 6, like people don't understand number one that yes, if you're sorry, you only have a 14% chance of winning. That means you have an 86% chance of losing. So while you can say, yeah, like, where you can easily go from a top pick with a 14% to going down to number 6, where now it's like, Washington, what do you do? I mean, you still got, I assume Jeremiah Frears is still going to be there by the 6 picks, or Trey Johnson, depending on how the draft shakes out. But it's like, for a lot of teams that think that they can be sorry on purpose, that doesn't guarantee you a number 1 slot. Yeah. And I see pros and cons with it because, like, for the NFL, if the NFL had a lottery, a lot of sorry teams will stay sorry, and a lot of good teams could mess around and have a top pick. And so, I just think there's pros and cons for both. I'm not totally against the lottery system. The only thing with this, and I mentioned it in the group chat, it smelled funny that the Lakers make this big trade, and it seems to bolster the NBA ratings. I wrote about it on Substack. Like, this trade, it didn't just signal about the East and the West coming back, but it also was a ratings boost initially because people were excited to see what Lakers and Luka look like, going for the rest of the season. And it seemed like Dallas was rewarded for taking the risk and helping the NBA. I will give you the number 1 pick, and you'll have Cooper. The valuation that went down when you traded Luka, how everybody's talking about selling the franchise, that's going to go away in a couple months once they get Cooper. And so that was the only thing that bothered me because, even with San Antonio, the fact that a couple months ago, all of us were talking in the group chat about, hey, it would be crazy if San Antonio got the number 1 pick. And their odds were so low that it's like, we didn't really believe that, but we wouldn't be shocked if it happened. And the fact that they got number 2, now it just opens up another can of worms. It's like, you could stay and get Dylan Harper if you wanted to, or you could package 2 and 14 and go get Giannis, right? And it just seems like they have a set number of teams that they desire to be good in certain seasons, and so we're going to finagle to make it happen that way, which I don't think is some of these other teams because, I don't necessarily believe Charlotte was tanking. I just believe that they don't have a good roster and a good organization. But I still feel like if they have never gotten a chance to get number 1, like, yes, I know the odds shake out that way, but it just doesn't feel right to me in terms of the NBA fan.
Yeah, Charlotte is a poverty franchise, man. They gotta get their front office right, or hope LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and crew can stay healthy.
Yeah,
because I mean, LaMelo's not bad. Like we talked about, like he was leading votes in the All-Star votes right before he got hurt. He can go. He can go. He can hoop. So, yeah. I mean, hopefully they can stay healthy. I don't think they're going to be attracting any free agents like that coming to Charlotte. And I guess that's another problem too. Like with the lottery, it's like these teams in smaller markets who might not necessarily be tanking, but aren't attractive destinations for free agents. They have to build through the draft. So when you are sorry, when you do have injuries and you're not rewarded with a high enough pick in your opinion, that sucks.
Yeah. And I think that's like even the Jaguars a couple years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago with Blake Bortles. like their team almost went to the Super Bowl because of their draft picks. They got no exciting free agents, and like teams like that, even with us, we're not getting many free agents in Indiana. It's like we have to build through the draft. So it's like there's hope as a Colts fan that if we're sorry, we're gonna get a good draft pick. But just imagine if we sorry and it's like, okay, we might get the 15th pick. That I would be sick. And
Right.
I feel like the other thing that the NBA has to kind of do away with, and maybe it's just because I don't really understand it, but all of these like conditions around trades. Like there was a moment in the draft lottery where like the Thunder could have gotten a trade. I mean, could have gotten a top pick if a certain team would have gotten to a certain spot. And it's like that's just confusing because as a fan, I'm like, I don't know all the intricate pieces and components of the trade and the picks, but it seems like these teams are making trades years out with all these conditions. So when it's time to figure out who's going to be at the top, nobody was saying the 76ers. But the 76ers were able to get in the top 5 because of something that happened below. And I'm like, okay, this is confusing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think sometimes you have to keep it simple. I don't know if you keep it too simple because that would incentivize tanking. But it seems like the league is trying to do whatever it can in terms of awards and stuff like that get players playing. I just feel like for this model, you're always going to be rewarding not even teams that are good, but just teams that you want to win. And I just don't think that's fair, long term. If you want your Charlottes, your Utahs, your Washingtons to actually pay attention. Like you look at the NFL this year, the NFL was thanking God that the Commanders fan base was actually active this year because they got a high draft pick that completely changed their franchise. And so I think the NBA can have that same impact if they will reward some of these teams, because you would be surprised how many teams are, or how many fans are fans of some of these sorry teams that can bolster your ratings and views.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. But
you mentioned it just now. I don't want to get your thoughts on this, but like you mentioned it just now. But do you think the NBA will change the games played stipulation when it comes to awards?
I mean, I don't think they would change it from what they have now, because I think it was like 60 games they have to play. But I don't see them making any drastic changes, because the thing is you can get around that, because for players that want to play in the games, it's like, okay, you have to be honest that some of these teams don't want these players to get awards, so they won't play them. The case with Jaren Jackson, they were talking about that's why Taylor Jenkins got fired, because they don't want Jaren Jackson to come back and potentially win Defensive Player of the Year and get him $300 million. So I think the thing that doesn't need to change is the percentages, of games that need to be played. I think it needs to change in terms of the amount of money that you're able to get because you win these awards. And I feel like that will help the organizations to be more willing to play their players, because I don't think it's just a player issue. I think it's also an organization issue. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. You make a good point with the money they're able to make based off the awards. I didn't even think about that part of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm me personally, I wasn't a fan of them making the decision of like the games played when it initially happened. So I would like to see them change it back to what it was. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I know we're gonna do some talk on the draft like closer to the draft time. But I guess starting out, what I assume you have Cooper going to Dallas, or do you think Dallas makes that move and trades
No,
for his?
I think they'll keep the pick and draft Cooper.
Okay, so based on that, the hype around Cooper is that he's going to be a franchise player, right? What do you think the expectations are for him year one in order for people to be comfortable and say, okay, we're glad we got him? Like, what does the numbers look like?
I don't know, bro, because he's going to a good situation, bro. He's going to be the third option. So I don't know, bro. Like I'm interested to see how that's going to work. I assume he's going to be playing the 3. We just gotta wait and see how that's gonna look. I think he's more of a 4, but AD has already said that he's not playing the 5. He doesn't want to play the 5. So seems like AD is gonna be playing the 4 and Cooper's gonna be playing the 3. So we're gonna see. Definitely gonna be on the perimeter a little bit more. He's definitely capable and like versatile to be on the perimeter, but we gonna see, man. We gonna see. I definitely think he can come in and average double digits. I don't think he'll average like a double double or anything, but I think he can, 10, 11 points.
Yeah.
Um, a solid starter. I assume he's gonna be starting for them. Um, but it's gonna be interesting because like he's a generational type player and he's gonna be a third option. Like he's not gonna be the face of that franchise.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the interesting part to see, I guess, how he develops. Not necessarily next year, but in the years to come when Kyrie might not be there, when AD, decides to move on or whatever he wants to do. Like I think
Yeah.
then is when we're gonna see Cooper be Cooper. But for now, I mean, he just got to step in and be a solid role player.
Yeah. And I think that's the one upside that I see with this like setup is because even if he went to Dallas or San Antonio, he's not forced to be the franchise player coming out. And I think
Mhm.
that takes pressure off of him. And even if he is the 3 this year and he's more of a 4 in terms of play style, what better 4 to learn it from than AD? So it's like I'm watching AD training with AD every day so that we know that AD probably has what 4, maybe 3 or 4 more years of prime AD, and it's like it's easy to just slide Cooper into that role. And so I think as a third option, he can come in and they can compete for championships. Because one of the things I hate with the NBA is like, man, you're bringing this tremendous talent on the losing
Mhm.
franchise. LaMelo, like you're forcing them to be a franchise player for a team that doesn't even know how to win. And so I
Right.
think Dallas, say what you want, they were in the finals 2 years ago, well, a year ago. So, their organization knows how to win. And so I feel like the difference between him and Luca is like Luca came in and they were expecting Luca to take them to the finals every year. With Cooper, the expectation is like, hey, AD, if you're not performing, we're going to get on you. Kyrie, if you're not performing, we're going to get on you. And Cooper, oh, you're just a rookie. So I think there's going to be expectations with rookies, remember with Cooper, but it's not going to be like, hey, you got to get 20 every night. That's not realistic in the league.
Yeah, and really for those top 3 teams, like even in Philly, like unless they decide to blow it up, whoever they draft at 3, like they're not gonna be coming in asked to do much of anything for real. Like you got Maxi, you got PG, you got Embiid.
And
Like
McCain.
whoever they draft at 3, like they can come in and I wouldn't necessarily say coast, but like get their feet wet. Like they're not forced to be, like you said, the face of the franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that you have to come into rather than it being handed to you. Because I feel like you have two different postures when you come into something versus just it being handed to you. Because now it's like this level of privilege, a level of things that you don't take as seriously from like look at Zion. Like Zion came in and the franchise, everything was handed to him. And I don't know if he was able to withstand the weight of those expectations. So now it's like, okay, if Zion was my 3 or my 2, I'm more comfortable than now just giving the face of the franchise because I don't know if he was mature enough to handle it. Um,
One thing that I will add is though, like the flip side of that is like you don't want to see these guys get stuck in that box of
mhm.
like being a third option, or where
Yep.
now like you never are able to be that number one option, that face of the franchise type situation because you spent the first 2 or 3 years being, the third option on a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
I
one thing
agree.
that I'm a little bit hesitant about, and I'm interested to see how it's going to pan out for really the top 3 picks.
Yeah. But I think the Cooper is walking into the perfect storm because he is a third option on that team. But for the majority of the year with Kyrie being out, he will be the second option. And, maybe we'll see depending on how they play, he might be the first in some nights. So it's just like I think he's blessed with the opportunity to, hey, from a media standpoint, we know you're the 3, but you're going to be able to a majority of the season become the one or the two, depending on how you play. So, yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think this sets up for an interesting offseason. Obviously, because the Giannis question, KD question is on the books. And like we talked about before, I think a lot of these teams that are going to be potentially in the finals, they can set the course for the rest of the offseason, what it looks like. And we have more content coming your way as the NBA playoffs are progressing. There's games on tonight. If you haven't tuned into our WNBA content, Hundo and John have been doing content on the WNBA. As that season is starting Friday, right?
Yeah,
16th. Yeah, Friday, Golden State plays. The Valkyries play against, I don't know who they play against. I was looking at it this morning.
Yeah, they're playing the Sparks, and then the Lynx playing the Wings, Dream playing the Mystics.
Yeah, so y'all tap in. If you're a basketball fan, that means that you can watch the NBA and the WNBA. So we'll be getting live content to you guys as soon as possible. I'll be doing draft coverage, and we'll be doing Substack articles. So tune into our writing and support our writing on there as well. So if, like I always say, like, share, and subscribe. And if there is somebody that does not know about the Winning Shot, man, you take the responsibility and tell them about it. Share this content with them. And like always, comment below. If we bogus, tell us in the comment. But we coming for you. We coming for you with stats and data. We love the love that we're getting already. And we just want to promote Jesus and also spread our ministry through sports. So like always, we love y'all. Thank y'all, and tune into the next episode. Peace.
Peace.